And let's go outside the courthouse in New York City and speak with Mary Murphy, a reporter for WPIX in New York, our affiliate. Mary, covering this today. Thanks for joining us. First, can you give us the setup today? Because every courthouse across America that we're covering are doing things differently. How exactly did they set up this hearing today?
All right, Vinny. Well, this was a virtual hearing because of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. All of the reporters going inside the courthouse had to have their masks on. We had a temperature check, and then we went to a jury assembly room. We were kept 6 feet apart. There were about 50 to 60 chairs in the room. A lot of international interest in this case, especially from Great Britain. And then it was a 2-hour hearing, a video monitor up front, and we could see Ghislaine Maxwell. She was appearing from a federal jail in Brooklyn, the Metropolitan Detention Center. She had her dark hair pulled back, and she was wearing a drab prison-issued uniform.
Okay, so what happened today? 2 hours is a pretty long time for a hearing at this stage of things. So what was on the docket today inside that courtroom?
The hearing today was whether or not Ghislaine Maxwell would be given bail before her trial next year, and the answer after 2 hours was no. The federal judge, Allison Nathan, said that Maxwell had extraordinary wealth. She had international ties. She was a major flight risk, and she decided that it would be in the best interest of the public for her to remain in a federal jail until the trial starts next July. That's 2021, a year from now. Her defense attorney, Mark Cohen, had said that she's in a virtual solitary confinement with the lights on all the time.
So was there any testimony today? Because we heard that there may be some testimony from one of the accusers. Did the judge take any of that?
Yes, there were two rather dramatic moments during this bail hearing. First, we had a written statement from a woman who identified herself as Jane Doe, and she said she was a young person and she knew Ghislaine for more than 10 years and that she had been groomed by her for sexual abuse by Jeffery Epstein. And she said that actually she egged on Jeffery Epstein. She encouraged him during this abuse. And she said she almost became anesthetized to the abuse. And then after that, there was a telephone call made by one of the other alleged victims, and she identified herself, her name, Annie Farmer, and she said she was just 16 years old when she started being groomed for abuse by Epstein. She basically said without Ghislaine, there would be no abuse by Epstein. And she said that her manner was sociopathic.
And again, our thanks to Mary Murphy. We'll have more from her report a little bit later on in the program. In the meantime, Court TV special contributor Ashley Banfield also at the courthouse today and has more for us tonight, including some details from one of those accusers, Annie Farmer. Let's take a listen.
Vinny, this is probably one of the more bizarre court cases that I've covered because it's all sort of teleconferenced at a location, so to speak, everybody masked, but justice got done. Effectively, it worked. And what I thought was fascinating was how the victims in this case were able to take part. I spoke with Annie Farmer. She's victim number 2 in the indictment after the hearing, just to ask how the process played out for her. She was on the teleconference call, audio only. But she said she got a good sense for the process. She knew that Ghislaine Maxwell was not in the courtroom and was at the lockup because the judge had asked if Ms. Maxwell could hear and see okay. So that was her indication. She said it was very complex, this 2.5 hours for her, but ultimately it became crystal clear that she knew Ghislaine Maxwell was not going to be leaving incarceration today. And she had some very specific feelings about that. When I asked her specifically what came to mind when she knew bail was not being granted, she said she was ecstatic. She said she was very relieved. She said she had a sense of satisfaction about all of this and that it was a very good day. I also asked her about the other alleged victim in the indictment who did make a comment today, but through her lawyer. And she said she doesn't know who the other two are, but that we're all going through this in our own way together, which I thought was fascinating. Annie wasn't interested in doing an interview yet in this process, but she did give us this on-camera statement.
I met Ghislaine Maxwell when I was 16 years old. She's a sexual predator who groomed and abused me and countless other children and young women. She has never shown any remorse for her heinous crimes or for the devastating, lasting impact her actions have caused. Instead, she has chosen to lie under oath and torment her survivors. The danger Maxwell poses must be taken seriously. She has associates across the globe, many of great means. She also has demonstrated contempt for our legal system by committing perjury, all of which indicate she is a significant flight risk. We may never know how many people were victimized by Ghislaine Maxwell, but those of us who survive implore this court to detain her until she can stand trial and answer for her crimes.
Vinny, coming up at 9 o'clock, I'm going to have a full interview with Annie Farmer's sister, Maria. She also alleges that she was abused by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and she did a full, thorough conversation with me about what all of this means now.
Ashley Banfield at the courthouse for us today. So as you can see, a lot happened today, but the bottom line here is for Ghislaine Maxwell, she's going nowhere. She is now locked up. And does that incentivize her to a certain extent to, hey, okay, you know, do I wait for my trial, roll my dice, see what happens, or do I try to cut some sort of deal here? And do I name some big names if in fact they exist? You know, she may be claiming she's 100% innocent, nothing to do with any of this. Let's bring in Court TV live anchor Julie Grant, who is with us tonight. Julie, really a big day today for Ghislaine Maxwell because this was a big part of the game was whether or not she was going to get out, and she's not getting out. She is going to be locked up. So now that she's locked up with no place to go, what do you think happens now? What do you think the defense strategy is, and will prosecutors in the defense, will there be any of those talks, those communications that everyone is wondering about to get answers to what really was happening with Jeffrey Epstein and whoever else is potentially involved?
Great question. Vinny, yes, I think Ghislaine Maxwell is going to sing like a canary. And today, although we couldn't have cameras in the courtroom because it is federal court and they're not permitted, what the reports were was that she was hanging her head repeatedly, looking very dejected, even at one point seeming to wipe away a tear from her eye. And perhaps she's thinking about the maximum possible penalty involved here if she's convicted, Vinny, and that's 35 years. This woman is 58 years old right now. Let's do the math. Should be 93 years old. Let's say she's convicted, gets the maximum, say the judge launches her, then that's a de facto life sentence. Surely she is going to sing like a canary now and talk about who else may be involved, because we know there's lots of very valid speculation that she wasn't the only one facilitating these heinous, disgusting, abusive acts against children. And I think if she has a chance to save herself, boy, oh boy, she's going to take it. And I think prosecutors should listen, see what she has to offer, and perhaps wheel and deal with her. So to answer your question, yes, I think the defense is going to try to wheel and deal, come up with something, because we know that's a long time to sit and think in jail. July of 2021, Vinny, is going to be her trial. So she's got a lot of time between now and then to try to negotiate something with federal prosecutors.
Yeah, I mean, and you're getting an incredible preview of what the rest of your life would be, because even if she doesn't get the max, I mean, she's 58. It's pretty much the rest of her years, her active years, would be behind bars if she's convicted in any of these charges. And I don't think she's going to get leniency from any judge being connected to Jeffrey Epstein. You don't want to be the judge being soft on someone connected to Jeffrey Epstein. That's just the way it is. The only way you get out is with a deal. So here's my question, because you mentioned other people facilitating. So who do you think prosecutors are obviously they're interested in everyone, but what has value to prosecutors? People who are facilitating, or perhaps people who were taking advantage of having access to these underaged girls?
I think they want anyone they can get their hands on, because what they're alleging here is that this was a conspiracy and this was an operation, right? This was an operation going on, and they're saying in their indictment that they know of two people Prosecutors are saying they know that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were most definitely conspiring to transport these underage girls, entice them to engage in sexual behavior, that Ghislaine Maxwell even participated at times in that. Not only did she groom them, recruit them, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office, but she also at times engaged in that sexual misconduct as well. So, yes, I think they're interested in anyone, whether it was someone like an Epstein who is said to be on the receiving end of things, or someone like Ghislaine Maxwell, who's said to be the one who was the impetus for all of it, starting all of these girls on their way into his hands. And so, yes, I think she is going to squeal, and I think she's going to do it fast, because I think she never expected she would get caught. We know when the FBI went to her house, she went running, Vinny, but she couldn't hide, and couldn't manage to get out on bail today. And the judge made the right decision keeping her in.
Yeah, I can't believe they tracked her down. She had tinfoil on her phone. And I thought for sure that would protect her forever, but apparently it didn't. Julie Grant, thank you so much.